all of us are Arjuns, caught in their own flesh, in their blood, in their tears, in their emotions, in their past. And being caught, we forget what our dharma is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is immortal. As long as Arjun lives within us, we will continue to need Krishna.
Namaste, Acharya. Last time I had attended the Mahotsav online and I had asked you a question. Your answer to the question has brought me here. Like you had just mentioned that when doubts arise, we try to fade them away on our own. We try to do away with them on our own. I have been trying to do this from quite some time. I don't know what the problem is. I'm in a deep state of confusion. There is always an underlying feeling of unease that I face. Everything on the outside is okay. The work that I do, I like the work that I do. I enjoy it. I want to continue doing it. There's no such problem on the outside. But on the inside, there is this constant feeling of unease. I don't know what it is. Maybe an existential crisis. I'm not sure. I've been talking to a volunteer and we have been trying to dissect what it could be. On the periphery, what I see is that I don't like associations and identifications of any sort. I don't like being identified with anything. For example, my parents, I like to see them more as individuals and not be connected. Like for referential purposes, obviously, I say that these are my parents, but I don't like that form of being tagged or being labeled as something, anything. For example, one of my friend often refers to me as her best friend. I'm very taken aback by that thing because I don't understand what that means. I don't want to confine myself to any sort of an identity. The second thing is, I also don't like taking any form of authority, any form of instruction. If it comes consciously, even from myself, I try to detest myself from doing it. So a simple thing that I can share is, if I tell myself that I have to study today, and I'm conscious of that instruction, I don't like taking it. So one thing that I tested was I would simply get up and start doing my work instead of giving myself any sort of an instruction. I don't like being told, for example, even when I got in touch with the organization, with a volunteer, I was happy at first that maybe I'll be able to attend the Mahotsav and everything. But after some time, I was like, I'm in touch with someone. Oh God, is she going to be after my life now? Like, is she going to check on me? Or am I going to be forced into doing something? Forced as in the very feeling of being told creates a problem in me. So I feel that I have always had an inflated sense of ego, of being offended by every little thing. I don't know what the exact problem is, but what I have understood is maybe I've made myself very important and I don't know how to get out of it. Sometimes I feel like maybe I need to be just scolded and humiliated at your hands at once so that I come down off that pedestal and get back to life, because it is creating a lot of stress in me. Every act of doing, it is also reflected in my body. I have seen many doctors. I'm facing from something called as excessive water retention and bloating. So whenever I get stressed, it reflects in my body. It takes me time to forget myself and come back to reality. I think my own personality is overpowering me so much. And this time I'm getting scared as I ask this question, because I know I am the problem, but I know that I need to let my guard down and let you help me in some sense.
Why should I scold you at a time and place of your choice? I'll do that when you least expect it. So for now,
Let me disappoint you. No, I'm not done yet. See, it's alright, it's a great thing to not to be submissive to authority. In fact, as a person, when you say that, I so very much resonate with you. I've been exactly this kind of person. At the same time, I don't want to yield to authority for my own good, right? Things must have a reason. One doesn't needlessly bow down because that would be detrimental to one's interests. It's not merely a matter of the ego's whims. I don't want to be submissive. If I am submissive, that would hurt me. Hurt me not in the sense of feelings, but in the sense of my real interests. So if my interests are to be protected, I need to learn. I don't need to kneel down, to prostrate. Nevertheless, I do need to learn. And learning is something very different from submissiveness or a prostration or whatever. There are words galore. Right? Don't we want to learn? And I readily empathize when you say, why not learn on one's own? Obviously. Let's give that one try, 2 tries. Let's try that the first thing. Why go to someone before making ample effort on one's own? Because if you haven't tried on your own, then forget all other aspects. Going to someone is going to be an inefficient thing. No? Before trying on your own, you do not even know the problem in its entirety. And you're going to somebody and the whole process demands time, energy, space, sometimes even money. And it's not just about your time, energy, space, etc. You're also taking that person's time. So before you engage, obviously you need to have tried your uttermost. So that's something obviously to be supported. But equally, we all know how limited we are beyond a point. And when we come to that point, it becomes obvious that one needs to look beyond herself, that one needs to seek help. And it's not, mind you, an admission of your powerlessness. It is just an expansion of your power boundary. You feel you are powerful only as long as you get it from within yourself. Why can't you admit that it is in the purview of your power to seek help as well? That too is an expression of your power. Is it not? Is it not? But that thing has to be exercised only after you have exhausted all your inner and available resources. Then you go to the next level to exercise the other quality of power, which is seeking help. Right? Just be discreet in seeking help and be very honest in seeking help. There is nothing ignoble about seeking help. As long as you have first done the best you could. Okay? In fact, why even say help? I mean, you can have a word of your choice. If help sounds a bit demeaning, you could say consultation or discussion or whatsoever is the going jargon these days. What do they call it these days? Conversation. It's just a didactic engagement. How does that sound? I never went to a Mahotsav. It was a didactic engagement. No help is involved. Nobody is helping anybody. Huh? Open discussion. Open liberal discussion. I'm very fine with that. In fact, I want it that way.
But I'm not able to identify why I have this underlying uneasiness or fear or vacuum or whatever.
It's all right to have it. You see,
It's always
given the way we are, we have a latent yet strong tendency to exploit. So one has to be therefore very careful in going to someone or accepting an authority or taking ready-made answers or stuff. The probability of being exploited or manipulated runs very, very high. So it's all right if you are careful. But being careful is one thing, and becoming psychotic about that is another thing. Care is all right. Right? The kind of world we have, the kind of history we have, and the kind of bodily constitution we have, it makes sense to be apprehensive.
what I was trying to say is the feeling of uneasiness, or I don't know a word to put it, is not necessarily related to this. I feel it is always there in the background. No matter what I'm doing, it's always there. I forget it for some time, but then when
Exactly with respect to that, with respect to that, I'm talking of help. That feeling is there. You want to get rid of it? You have tried on your own. Now, with respect to that, I'm talking of help.
I have another question. I am a teacher and a researcher in philosophy, and I teach both Indian and Western philosophy. And I teach in Goa, so we have foreign students coming in and students from all backgrounds. So what I try to do is I try and formulate a link between Indian philosophy, basically Upanishads and Vedanta, with also the Western thinkers, because students come with a certain sort of a bias towards Western philosophy. They tend to ignore Indian philosophy because they feel there's been no development in the last many years. What I try and tell them that there is no contemporary issue as such, because the issue of human consciousness is maybe the primary issue, and I look at Socratic thinkers, post-Socratic thinkers, even later philosophers like phenomenologists have spoken of an underlying unity or something called as a transcendental ego, etc. And I try and form a link between both. I have also taken this as my project for PhD, because I feel unless we bring all systems together, it's difficult to bring a sense of unity. What I see is, or would it be okay to say that wherever there is a rise of human consciousness, or wherever someone has tried to understand the nature of human consciousness correctly, he will always say something that is similar or that is in close sync to the Upanishads, though he might not be necessarily getting it from the East, or he might not necessarily have gone to it. I'm not trying to propagate this, nor am I trying to do this on my own for myself, but just to bring about a link so that it is easier to seek Vedantic wisdom for students?
See, two things can be linked only if they belong to the same plane. What you call as Western philosophy, including the ancient Greek philosophy, it is a product of thought. You think and then you come up with something. Vedanta, instead of being a product of thought, instead of being downstream in the flow of thought, goes right to the source of thought upstream. Now, how do you link these two? Vedanta takes thought as just thought, and all the divisions within thought are discarded with a disdainful swipe of hand. Means nothing. So all the different kinds of philosophies that you have, they are all bundled into one as waves of the mind. The interest of Vedanta does not lie in the content of mind, in the waves of mind, in the products of mind, but in the genesis of mind. What is the mind? Where does it come from? Where does it want to go? So, calling Vedanta as even philosophy, to me, is a bit of a problem. Because philosophy is somebody's thought. Here there are questions and factual answers. And nobody can dispute those facts because they are universal. Right? They belong as much to you as they do to me, as they did to the ancients. So it's hardly a philosophy. There is nothing in it to believe. You question and you proceed. You see and you proceed. So, it's a different genre. I don't see how it can be presented to students in the same league as...
I don't seek to present it similarly. What I try to do is just start with Western philosophy and then give them the Indian part, because I've seen that there is easier acceptance that way. Then they don't look back and inquire into, they don't look at the superficial aspects of it, and they fearlessly go into reading it. Otherwise, because I teach at the master's level, and by the time they come doing their bachelor's, they've already come with a lot of preconceived notions. So I repeatedly have to seek the help of Western philosophy. Even while teaching Buddhism, I made a statement in class one day saying that basically what Lord Buddha is talking of is Upanishadic wisdom. The whole class came up to me saying that the beauty of Buddhism is that it rejects the Vedas. So what I was trying to say is,
these are pretty ignorant students.
Yes. So
where do you get them from? How did they clear their last grade?
Basically, no one wants to take philosophy. Those who are taken nowhere come here. And they come with all kinds of things, like Shankaracharya has been propagating untouchability and things like that. It takes almost a year to get all this out of their minds, and I have only 1 year left because they obviously don't make careers in philosophy. I make an effort to keep them. I form WhatsApp groups and keep on sending them readings. So this is one way that I found to keep them engaged.
I really aim to have an auditorium full of such samples. And to have them for 3 full days, all for myself, with the doors locked from outside.
And there's another problem that I face while going through Vedant. One is that the class is divided into two groups. One, those who have accepted Advait, they accept Shankaracharya completely. And then they say that the later thinkers who propound Vishisht Advait, Dvait, Shuddh Advait, everything is nonsense and they don't want to attend the rest of the classes. There's another section that says we find a greater connection to Dvait because that in a sense they feel is closer to Islam or Christianity, to be introduced into it. And then I don't know where to find a middle ground. Maybe that's coming from my own lack of understanding.
No, you don't need to find a middle ground. See, the thing is, there is Vedanta, right? And the ego is a fractured thing. We call ourselves Prashant Advait Foundation and all that. But duality, Dvait, is a fact. It depends on where you're looking at the thing from. So what Madhvacharya or Ramanujacharya are saying is not at all useless. It is very much useful. It depends on the subject. There is a state of the subject in which duality is definitely the fact. There is another state in which transcending duality becomes much more important. So all these interpretations of Vedanta, they all have value depending on where the reader is standing. None of them by themselves are the truth. It depends on you. They are all useful depending on where you are. It says that the Western education makes you think in objective terms. You think of contrasting this philosophy with that, raising this versus that, without bothering to see that it is all with respect to you. It is not that versus this. It is all of that versus you. Now this inner orientation is almost completely missing in the West, irrespective of how high-flying the philosophy or the philosopher is. It becomes so tempting for the philosopher to totally forget that whatever is being said in the perspective, in the frame of reference of the ego. And that's what Vedanta brings to the table. The most fundamental fact that all is when you are. All is to the one you are. Students need a deeper study and someone to point the inner direction constantly to them. You cannot study Vedanta in the same way you study Western philosophy. The approach has to be totally different.